afternoon, my dears. You are on a trip to San Francisco, and we continue to get acquainted with this truly unusual city. I promised you that I would tell you about the most unpleasant, and why hide the terrible sides of this city. Therefore, today's video will be about the main problem of San Francisco, and we will talk about homeless people. The prevalence of homelessness emerged both in San Francisco and the United States in general in the late 1970s and early 80s. Jennifer Walsh identifies some of these factors to include the loss of jobs from deindustrialization, a rapid rise in housing prices, and the elimination of social welfare programs. The Reagan administration made large cutbacks on affordable and public housing programs, such as Section 8, leaving much of the task of providing public and supportive housing up to local jurisdictions. The economic shift from production-oriented jobs in factories towards the service industry resulted in a loss of wages as factory jobs were more lucrative. This decrease in wages was compounded by the fact housing prices continued to rise, with average real estate value in the Bay Area increasing by 100% between 1984 and 1990. As these economic changes were occurring, social events also impacted the city's homeless population. The deinstitutionalization movement of the 1970s had succeeded and saw the mass transfer of mental health patients to community-based clinics. This transfer was not smooth, as many previously institutionalized patients found themselves back in society with less support than they were accustomed to, and few possessed the professional skills or resources needed to successfully transition. The failure of deinstitutionalization is often attributed to the cuts to mental health services made at the same time, with mental health budgets decreasing by a third between 1978 and 1982. As a result, the homeless population has had a disproportionate rate of mental health needs met ever since the 80s. Dianne Feinstein was the first mayor of San Francisco forced to address the homeless issue. Her administration operated under the belief that the growing homeless problem was a temporary issue and a side effect of the recent recession. The response to the problem was to open temporary shelters that provided a sandwich and a bed for a night, with the hope that those served could find permanent housing soon. This program proved to be underfunded and unprepared for the demand, as the homeless population continued to grow. Feinstein's successor, Art Agnos, took a more involved approach to address the homeless problem as part of a broader progressive mayoral campaign. Agnos' view of homelessness was that it was the result of structural inequalities and could only be resolved by intervention from state welfare programs. Under his direction, 2 multi-service buildings that provided mental health counseling and substance abuse support, in addition to housing, were open to benefit the homeless community. Despite Agnos' official support for homeless people, his administration was not without some controversy. A group of young anarcho-activists, Food Not Bombs, began to distribute free vegetarian meals to homeless people in parks around the Haight, which was opposed by a group representing developers and business interests. Tensions between activists who argued they were just providing aid to the residents whom the city refused to support, and the city eventually escalated, with the city arresting activists and confiscating their supplies. Clashes between the city and activists continued off and on over the course of the following year, until confrontations over the usage of Civic Center Plaza escalated to the occupation of the park by a mix of activists and members from the homeless community, estimated to number between 300 and 350 in all, and eventually became known as Camp Agnos. Complaints from the protesters included the city's inaction to address the growing homelessness, lack of affordable housing options, and the ineffectiveness of existing shelters. One homeless protester said of the services provided, "A shelter is like being in prison. There's no freedom of movement," and complained of the inability of being able to use shelters with her husband, opting instead to sleep on the streets so they could be together. Under pressure from the Board of Supervisors and the negative publicity, Agnos ordered police to ticket and arrest those who remained in Camp Agnos. Former Police Chief Frank Jordan won the 1992 mayoral race on a platform of bringing public order back to the city and promised to return public space back to its residents from homeless people and youth activists. Jordan sought to crack down on the disorderly and troublesome activists who he thought were dealt with too leniently by the former administration. Jordan's for year saw 700 arrests and citations given to the Food Not Bombs activists. Jordan's homeless policy extended beyond confronting Food Not Bombs members and their homeless allies. Jordan introduced the Matrix program, which expanded the role police had in tackling homelessness by increasing the number of citations given to homeless people for city misdemeanors, with 600 citations issued in the first 6 months of the program's initiation. Matrix teams of city police usually accompanied with social service workers to systematically sweep the city block by block to engage members of the homeless community and dismantle homeless encampments. The initial reception from city residents was mostly positive, with 75% of calls to the mayor's office praising the crackdown as a needed step to clean the city up. Critics of Matrix accused the program of using resources on punitive enforcement of quality of life laws that generally only affect the homeless community, like sleeping in public and loitering, instead of promoting services to aid homeless people. Mass citations to homeless people, critics argued, was counterproductive since those in extreme poverty lacked the funds to pay the fines. Judges would respond to unpaid fines by issuing arrest warrants, resulting in the incarceration of homeless people when the same resources used to jail the inmates could instead go towards expanding shelter services. Additional critiques lobbied at the program centered around the use of police as social service workers. Matrix police were authorized to give psychological field tests to determine if a homeless person was acting erratically and were the deciding force on whether or not to bring them to the hospital for mental services. In 1994, homeless rights advocates succeeded in convincing the Board of Supervisors to pass a resolution opposing the Matrix program, with Jordan's response being to double down by expanding the program sweeps to Golden Gate Park. Though the Matrix program persisted, public opinion shifted against it for being too harsh, and Jordan failed to secure a second term. Willie Brown, San Francisco's first African-American mayor, won a runoff against Frank Jordan with a campaign promise to end the Matrix program. Upon assuming office, Brown suspended the Matrix program and ordered a judge to revoke all citations and warrants stemming from the program. Despite this action to end Matrix, citations issued to the homeless community for quality of life violations, a highly criticized aspect of Matrix, increased. The last year of Matrix saw 11,000 of these kind of citations, which rose to 16,000 in Brown's first year and soared to 23,000 by 1999. The militarized clearance of homeless people's encampments within Golden Gate Park, which had an estimated population of 1,000 throughout the park and featured the deployment of police helicopters equipped with infrared cameras, demonstrated Brown's commitment to his promise, "You tell me where the camp is, and in 24 hours it won't be there." These citations were less publicized than Jordan's Matrix program and considered to be routine policing instead of any homeless-oriented policy, allowing Brown to avoid some of the negative publicity that plagued his predecessor. Not all of Brown's positions were detrimental to the homeless community, as he successfully mobilized support to secure a $100 million government bond to expand affordable housing, and his support for universal health care was a central tenet to his platform, though its implementation was never manifested. Riding a robust economy and operating under a patronage system that benefited his allies and restricted political opponents, Brown was able to secure a second term despite policies that alienated his liberal base, including his harsher-than-expected treatment of the city's homeless. Gavin Newsom, a previous member of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, succeeded Brown after running as a Democratic centrist to become San Francisco's youngest mayor. In the past century, given the ineffective steps taken to address homelessness over the past 2 decades, Newsom sought to implement wholesale change on how the city interacted with its homeless community, as he thought programs needed more resources and oversight. Citation needed. With Newsom's support, the city passed 2 measures, Propositions M and N, to change homeless policy. Proposition M expanded quality of life laws to include the prohibition of aggressive panhandling and panhandling near ATMs, parking lots, or buses, though this was another quality of life law and included citations. priorities were made to funnel offenders to substance abuse or mental health treatment as much as possible. A cornerstone of Newsom's homeless legislation was actually passed with his support while he was still on the Board of Supervisors in 2002. Proposition N, better known as Care Not Cash, was passed by the city with 60% approval with the goal to overhaul the city's welfare system by cutting general assistance payments to eligible adults from $395 a month, one of the highest rates in California, to $57 a month, and to use the savings to expand care services for the city's homeless residents. Newsom claimed that using resources for services would prove to be more effective at supporting homeless residents instead of handouts, arguing that cash handouts encouraged homeless people to flock to the city from neighboring counties, along with increased usage of emergency medical services and crime rates. On the weekends, the cash was dispersed. His claim that handouts cause crime rates to spike and increased hospitalization has been disputed by some academic studies conducted in San Francisco, which have found an inverse relationship between recipients of monetary subsidies and risky behaviors such as substance usage. Care Not Cash resulted in approximately 200 homeless people finding shelter via the usage of single-room occupancy SRO units in hotels throughout the city. However, those that did not receive housing found life on the streets even more difficult due to the sharp funding cuts. Critics of the program accuse it of having exclusive standards to participate in, thereby excluding large segments of the homeless population, as well as using substandard SRO housing units, which often lack private bathrooms and food prep areas, as permanent housing. Other measures introduced included Homeward Bound and Operation Outreach, as well as the introduction of new supply ordinances. Homeward Bound was a program to pay for bus tickets to send homeless people out of the city so long as they could prove they had a place to be received at their destination. This was met with resistance from critics like the Coalition for Homelessness, who accused the program of not solving anything and was just dumping the problem off to other counties. Mayor Newsom argued that the vast majority of people that are out on the sidewalks are not from San Francisco originally and would be better served by being returned to supportive family members. Although by 2007, San Francisco's homeless census found that only 31% of the homeless population became homeless outside of San Francisco. A 2017 Guardian study found that between 2013 to 2016, almost half of the 70 persons that San Francisco had claimed to have successfully moved out of homelessness had simply been moved out of San Francisco. Operation Outreach was instituted in 2004 and, echoing some of the philosophies behind the Matrix program of the Jordan era, utilized police officers to enforce quality of life laws. This program differed from the Matrix program in that it involved a diverse number of agencies with the purpose of connecting the homeless community with services as the primary goal, with the quality of life citations a secondary result. The effectiveness of the outreach aspect of the program is disputable, as the coalition found that only 24 of 200 for people surveyed received a referral to a program or service in their last encounter with the police. In his last year, Newsom expanded the quality of life laws within the city by successfully passing Proposition L in a public vote, which bans city residents from sitting or lying on sidewalks between the hours of 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. In November 2023, the city started clearing away all of the homeless people from certain parts of the city in preparation for the upcoming Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit. On the 25th of September, a high-ranking official from the city's Public Works Department emailed 2 city officials listing 7 intersections to target, writing that due to the upcoming summit, he was concerned about historical encampments that are close to priority areas. The San Francisco Chronicle noted that all 7 intersections are in the 2 neighborhoods that have long been at the epicenter of San Francisco's unrelenting crises of homelessness and public drug markets. Current Mayor London Breed, elected in 2018 and re-elected in 2019, has expressed extremely progressive development plans for the unhoused community. Her policy has been centered on increasing available, affordable units as well as protecting those that now exist. She has also worked on local policy to support safe drug use This includes fentanyl testing, clean needles, and the expansion of the San Francisco Street Overdose Team to include a dedicated team to support and follow up with people after overdose incidents. Her policies have also provided safe parking spaces for those residing in their vehicles.
No, you already asked.
My friend telling me one time, I was like, there's the cops behind you, and then I'm like, what the fuck is there moving? Yeah. Get down and cut it off.
Yeah, well, he didn't have no choice because he stepped on the land.
Because one of the leading people in their church is a child molester and decided to blame me for the kids I got molested, and they wanted to protect him, so they fucking kept blaming it on me when they had evidence against him. Fuck that piece of shit!
No, right? They go viral so much. Everything in the curve.
Yeah. why we're there.